Here we go. Good morning, everyone. I apologize for the delay due to technical difficulties. We'll start this roundtable off. It's called Cities and Societies for All, and we will have two presentations. We'll begin with the presentation that Gustavo Adolfo Diaz-Gonzalez is going to give regarding the ASTIC project. Gustavo is currently working in Spain, Madrid. He's in charge of this project. Gustavo, whenever you would like, please take the stage. Could you help me with this just a moment, please?
Muy bien. Para ponerla así tal cual. Muy bien. Vale. Muy bien. Pues, buenos días.
Well, good morning. I apologize for the delay. That was quite unexpected, but we'll try to make up for lost time. And I'll tell you about this project we're involved in, which has its purpose is to achieve maximum accessibility for telematic services for citizens. And I'm Gustavo Diaz-Gonzalez, and I'm responsible for ASTIC's project in terms of how it's going to be provided to users. And we have here involved with us different players, Fundación Diatel, Aspaim, Vodafone, and Aspaim Madrid. We have the support of the Ministry of Industry with the plan called Avanza and the digital progress. We've been able to initiate this project. What is the objective of ASTIC Aspaim? What is this all about? Today, in our information society for persons like us with disabilities, we're finding many advantages because we're seeing the democratization among all spheres of the society. Public administrations are ever more present in the virtual world, and this gives us a lot of advantages. But I insist, we still are finding barriers that have to do with accessibility to this type of services. So what is this project about? Through this project, we want to facilitate and make things a lot easier for persons when they are dealing with technology. Why? Well, basically, since these tools allow us to be in equal conditions with the rest of society, we want to use them as means for attaining equality, and we want to use e-administration and help knock down the digital divide or barrier. So how are we going to do this? Well, we want these services to be offered to persons with difficulties and make this easy for them.
El punto de partida de todo esto.
The starting point for everything has two difficulties. On the one hand, we have the difficulties that we have for physically getting to the offices of the public administration and the long waiting lines or queues. So instead of going physically to these, maybe we can go another way. But then there's a problem with the electronic access. Where do we see difficulties there? Well, sometimes there's a lot of bureaucracy involved, a lot of paperwork, or if it's hard for us to use a keyboard, it won't be easy to use this technology. Or maybe I'm not as fast as I need to be to use these tools. So we have difficulties in the virtual world and in the real world. However, on the other hand, we have another extreme, which is how useful all these services turn out to be for us, because they are helping me avoid physical access. I don't have to go out of my home necessarily. I can take as much time as I want. I can have economic savings and time savings. And aside from that, I feel sure that the things I'm doing are not going to expose me to problems I might find outside my home. So what are we doing? Who is this for? This project is with ASTIC ASPAIM, is trying to find one solution that integrates two things. It gives persons who are we are aiming to reach, which are mainly persons with physical disability and also persons with cognitive disabilities, to have tools that can enable them to use them instead of having to go out of the home. When we started out and thought about the group directly, when we started researching to see how these services were used and to cite the lacks present in these services, we saw this is not just a technical problem, there's a human problem, and we wanted to see what human problems we were finding before we even set out to propose any solution. What we did was the following. We identified the problems in using digital services, and then we looked at how this program or these applications or services should be to make them adequate. Please allow me just a moment. I've lost my page. Could you help me? Okay. What we did for this purpose was we organized ourselves into a group of persons within a controlled environment. We did testing, and with the help of a professional, we saw how these persons use services and what difficulties they encountered when using them. The expert from the UPM was a sociologist, and he was detailing the difficulties, gathering detailed information on these difficulties encountered, because 3 different groups were involved, and they were quite different. We had one group with were persons with spinal cord injuries, and they have a mobility problem. We have had persons with cerebral palsy, paralysis, and they had cognitive problems and physical motor problems. And then we had brain damage persons. And in these 3 groups, what we did was we developed the same type of test, and we saw the results that each group came through with, and the different problems that arose with these tests, and especially when we're talking about important injuries, spinal cord injuries or tetraplegia. These problems, when one is looking at the service, what does the person understand? Does the person understand the terminology, the procedure that needs to be undertaken? Well, even though we had some different results based on what group we were looking at, we found common problems. On the one hand, the presential services Well, there was a problem of mobility. How did one get to the building? How did the type of transportation used? And what happened when the person arrived at the building? What was the access like into that building? How was it moving around inside the building? And then if the person had a problem expressing themselves clearly, how did that person go about communicating once there? Then, using telematic services, the problems we found that were common to all were difficulties in filling out the documents. If it's easy, and I have a normalized access with a good keyboard, am I able to do things in time and not have a refresher page come up on the screen before I'm able to finish? This was something that was important. And it's oftentimes that we find electronic services that use the same language that a civil servant would use in a ministry or in a city hall. But is this terminology easy for a citizen to understand? I'm not talking about a disabled citizen, but anyone. And then another problem we found that was different from the rest of the population were sometimes problems of were problems common to the rest of the population. It was mistrust of the electronic systems. Do we feel safe about using electronic systems? For example, I don't feel comfortable doing this with my credit card. That would be one example. But later on, then another problem was lack of interest. Maybe the service wasn't directly linked up to my problems. And then also, users are often not familiar with everything that the public administration is able to offer. Therefore, detecting problems and seeing the needs of the different groups we're aiming to help brought out some lines of work we addressed. On the one hand, going quickly over this, I'll talk about the purposes of the project: to offer a single point where persons can find electronic services and have easy access to them, and carry out the tasks that they would be able to do if they were to physically go to a public administration building. And then another thing we aimed to do was to have a device for identifying persons and giving them digital access to the application in Internet. We'll see further along exactly what I mean here. The third line of action, something that people really are wanting to see, is being able to have assistance when they are carrying out telematic actions, when they're doing things using telematic services. They don't often find help to resolve their doubts. And this is very related to the facility for understanding what one is seeing in that service. And from here on out, the solutions we worked to develop could be classified in three important pillars. One is a web portal. What are we doing here? Excuse me just a moment. I'm going to turn the page. Thank you. What are we doing in the web portal? Well, the strong point of the web portal is to channel that facilitated access through different lines. On one hand, we'll have a guide of electronic services where users once they are geographically located, they find a series of categories. These categories try to cover all aspects related to citizens' lives. Then, when you go into one of these services listed, it's not just about finding a definition of what that service is and how it operates and what you can do and what you can't do with it, but, and here comes the interesting part, how it can be used for everyone. It's a guide that tells us how to use that service, how to go about it. So it's a guide that is easily as possible tells us with details how it takes us through the service. And it's very common when you try to go into the web pages of city halls or the ministries, you can see a lot of options, and it can take quite a long time to find exactly what one needs to do to get where one wants to go. And I think that all of us are pretty familiar with new technologies, but what happens if we are not, or we've never used technology? And excuse me, but I'll put my mother as an example. I'm sorry, Mom, but what happens when you have to use e-services and you get lost? Well, something easy for most people, she gets lost. So this is a user problem that is often common when one is trying to use e-services in the public administration. This guide tries to make everything a lot simpler. Not just helping persons who get lost because they are not familiar, but also if you have a problem of memory and you're working with your e-services and you have your guide to remind you where you have to go to do things. And not only that, we furthermore have something that helps persons be aware that what they're looking at is up to date, because we have reference dates. And there's a protocol that says that every so often these services are revised to make sure that what is being stated on the page is in fact in force. And what we tell at the web portal explains to persons how to access services. One thing we talked about a few moments ago is that the ways in which we identify ourselves to enter into e-services using an electronic ID or another solution. So explaining to users how they have to identify themselves, explaining to them how they work and what and how they're very much like your ID in real life, and make them trust these and give the person more a better feeling, a more security about how these methods are trustworthy for doing these tasks online. And also the portal will give us other options that will be included. This will be something included in the technical help guide. Persons who need alternative methods when it comes to using the computer, or they will be able to have a few. We're not going to have everything, but we'll have things that are practical and usable, and that will provide persons with options adapted to themselves. I've forgotten the concept exactly that I wanted to mention, but we will find things that will be useful to us for finding these services and undertaking them. And the other important pillar is the constant presence of help for the user. If I'm doing something and I get stuck, the user needs to know that there's someone that is back there ready to support and help the user. This is really important when we talk about needs to be detected. We shouldn't just have a simple guide that says read these different points and then you're on your own. No, you need to know that you've got help that is back there that will give you support, not just through the web, but you've got social networks that are focused on this and promotion. But we have to have help that's always present. As I mentioned, what do we detect? We needed, we saw that we needed a way of identifying ourselves that gave easy access. But if we have an electronic ID and we have other software solutions, why don't we use them? Well, they're not as accessible as they don't make things as accessible as they should. We have to have previous resolution for a software, and we have to. This creates a problem of things sometimes can only be used once they're duly installed, and users don't always know how to do that. Well, so how can we resolve these issues? Well, we can have a solution that is. We're talking about a project here that is in pilot phase for digital identification, but we're expecting it to make things very accessible. And with this device, we connect, and through the device, I am able to use it anywhere, wherever it can be hooked up, of course. But it's safe, and it gives me guaranteed privacy. And the device features. The CDA, the Digital Access Certificate, allows me to reach. It allows me to reach. It allows me to sign electronically, to verify, and it allows encryption. If I go into a little detail about how it would work, I'll have to say that basically what I would do is I connect my CDA to the computer where I'm going to work at home or at my friend's home or family member's home. And once the CDA is connected to the PC, it updates the certificate. So the problem of trust is when we go into a service of the public administration, and it's not something that's gone wrong. They're just asking for information and asking us to authenticate our identity. And the CDA does this automatically because the system is phishing for these CDAs, and the CDA is always allowed. It's updated, and then we have a browser that comes up, and it's portable and installed in the CDA. We don't open up the PC that we have. We don't open up the browser, excuse me, that the PC has. So with this, what are we guaranteeing? Well, anything we do will be totally private because it's not going to leave any evidence on the PC we're using. And using this special browser, when we close this CDA, the browser closes and leaves no evidence of whatever we've done on the computer that we were using. Well, I don't know what I've done here. Oops.
Ganando tiempo, digamos que especificamos.
Let's simplify what the token is about. It's a USB device with cryptographic technology, and it has, well, we can imagine it would have simply integrated memory and a SIM card, so it can have the application it needs, and then we can also house the certificates there. And then what I mentioned about the browser, it's portable. It would be like Mozilla Foxfire, and it opens automatically, and when we close up the certificate, it closes and leaves no evidence. Another important pillar of all of this that Spain is trying to do. What about groups of persons with disabilities and training? Well, training was this picture was taken last week at a meeting of parents of disabled children with brain damage, with cerebral palsy, with different issues, and the direct training of these people takes the fear away when they're using these new solutions. So these training sessions are important when it comes to explaining new technology and to making it common making it used commonly for dealing with public administration. So what we actually do is we go and we talk about it, but we're also very practical. And that day, in order to avoid problems that could arise from just talking about what this did, we actually did demonstrations and we used the card. And this is an electronic service that's a public service. We explained what we could do with this technology and demonstrated it. And that helped people lose their fear of this technology, but it also gave them a direct role in undertaking all of this instead of delegating this type of task to someone else. Well, I've almost finished, but I'd like to mention that in our training plan in explaining electronic advantages, we have meetings where we explain and demonstrate, and through all the contact that we've had with the public administration, we've been able to make them aware that they should try to integrate in accessibility as much as possible the inclusion of all persons, and to foster digital services that will thus give all of the population, especially the disabled population, equality. And little by little, we've seen the efforts that the public administration is making, but we do believe that they will make more in the future, because these tools are an advantage, and the UN considers them a very important pillar for national development and for citizen involvement in government. Lastly, and to finish, I'd like to say what, at this point in time where we find ourselves, we would like to promote and to see expanded. Well, we'd like to expand the portal and launch it. And what do we have inside? Today we consider that ASPIM, even though it was looking to improve the life of persons with disabilities. And going back to my mother, I have to say that this is an important tool that can be used for everyone to help them learn to use electronic services. It's a way of making people unafraid of these tools, and it's a guideline that makes their use easier. I mean, the tutorials are really wonderful for the public administration and for citizens' use of these new technologies. And in an information society, we have groups of elderly persons. We have groups for whom the digital divide is extremely important, and we want to make a difference. So without further ado, I conclude, and thank you for your time. Well, thank you very much, Gustavo. It's a pleasure to listen to you and understand this type of project that's so close to reality. And furthermore, I'm firsthand familiar with it, and I'm very happy to see the progress that has been made in this project. Now we will hear with about the ICATE project. And it's a system of integral access, global access, and Guillermo Ramírez Sala, the Director of Accessibility of the Foundation Ciudad, will give it.
De Valencia. Guillermo
has a very long curriculum of experience in accessibility and design for everyone. And I'll give him the floor, and so that we can know the project ICATE detail. Yeah, I will sum up. I think I will have to accelerate the presentation. Well, the project ICATE it's a management project, a management of accessibility, and the part that we are most interested on of citizens' participation. The consortium is formed by the Fundación CEDAT, that is where I work, the Institute Itaca, a company that's called TSB, and the Polytechnical University of Valencia. I'll tell you a little bit how this works in comparison with some things that we saw yesterday. We've been working with people with disabilities since 1996, and well, we know the range that we are on which we are focusing, and what the Ithaca Institute presented to us was the tool. So it was an end-of-degree project of a student that was an application with which we could share some points or incidents of the public life with other users. So we try to adapt that tool to the facts that we knew, and from 2009 we started to think how we could shape this project, because as everything, someone has to pay it, and we had to dress it up so that the ministry within the Plan Avanza could pay this project. The objective is to implement this management system to generate public information that is professionally validated or validated by technical people, and that enables continuous improvement of the public space with citizens' participation. Some limitations that existed and that still exist. Not everyone has updated information about what's the status of its or his or her public state. There's not a system of geographical information, and the great part of the information, or that is not in digital format or is not unified, well, people can't access this information, and it's the opinion of the users that in that moment have been able to put that information somewhere. The proposal that we were establishing is to manage these limitations with two tools to manage the environment conditions, and an application of consultation, route, etc., to consume information, and definitely to participate at a social network around the accessibility condition that was in which we were more interested. When the results are not personalized, it's not reliable, the quality is not so good. But what we wanted with these two tools, what I've commented to you, there's a user profile that will tell you how it works. There is a control of that participation to prevent failure messages or that are not related with accessibility. And then there's a professional tool that enables us to manage all these things and to put it available to the public. I won't talk about technical issues because I think they are not interesting. The main flow of technical information starts in the tool GIA that enables us to include rules, prices, etc. to generate some technical information. This information is sent to the management tool for the administration or for who has asked for this technical report, and then this person will decide which information is made available to the public. This will be the flow of the verified information. Well, the professional tool in this screenshot, well, it enables you there's an import section to include new rules or the rule of the Community of Madrid. It enables to include databases of prices because this tool enables you to establish modifications of the incidents or accessibility difficulties, and it gives you a standard solution regarding the prices that you have given. And with these prices, it enables you to plan an action or even an accessibility plan of, for example, a town hall. In this screen we can see the prices that are with some kind of codes that can be updated. It understands well with the Presto and some other kind of programs for budgets. This is what I'm showing to you is the way that we can make an accessibility plan and some reports of an urban part, etc. When you have these things that is answering all the questions, you can include photographs, you can qualify with respect to the rules, you can see accomplishments and non-accomplishments, you can generate some reports that you can include or to send to the town hall that takes part in this project. The Town Hall of Madrid is getting part in the project ECATE, so this report would be sent to the technical people of the Town Hall of Madrid. The technical people who receives all these kinds of reports, depending of what they're interested on or not, well, because we're making some works in this place or whatever, they decide to export to Vadeo the information that should be known by the citizens. The town hall, with this tool, the town hall has the possibility of having a direct communication with the citizens through the incidents, suggestions, complaints that people can do via mobile or through the internet with any kind of PC or any kind of device with internet access. So what we are doing here is a communication between the administration and the citizens regarding the condition of the environment and the information published about the accessibility and where it is. Then we have the tool Vadeo, which is the tool of the users, of the citizens, that can be used via mobile or through a tablet or a computer. In this tool, what we wanted that finally hasn't worked as good as we want is that the user can create a profile in which he or she decides which are the preferences of accessibility that wants to receive by the system. We are not asking him if he's blind or deaf or whatever. We're asking about the preferences. For example, when the navigator tells you, do you want to avoid paying roads or etc. This is an information about the user preferences. So the user what can do is to see the interest points or the points of interests in the map and to see if that information is certified or not and which suggestions he or she can see from other users that have gone through that street, etc. You have a double information, some technical information and information from the citizens. I say that this hasn't worked very good because with this profile, what we wanted is, well, the system doesn't not only provides you information but also enables you to create a route. I want to go from here to the town hall, and Google Maps gives you provides you with the adequate route. If there are some elements that make that route inaccessible, these elements will be shown. But what we really wanted is to obtain an accessible route depending on your user profile, depending on your accessibility preferences, knowing the preference, the accessibility conditions certified by the technical person or whatever. If you want to avoid stairs or whatever, the system should be able to give you the route that avoids that kind of incidences that are certified on the way. We've been working with the code of Google Maps, and it's not so accessible to do that. So it sometimes gives you an alternative route, and other times it doesn't. This is in beta version in order to go on working, but maybe we'll try to change the system to move on to an open maps or bitmaps or whatever. But one of the main objectives was not only to know statically which are the conditions, but to know where should I go through, and that you could tell me if I would be able to get in, if I will be able to be within these installations or facilities or whatever. Well, here we can see, for example, a shop. There's one photograph, and if you want to see more information, you can see more details. You can see some pictograms, if there is parking, if you can get in or not, some things that have been defined. And finally, it's the town hall who publishes in video so that people can have this information. Well, this is the part of the route. I'm showing an image of how the route would work, and here you can see the screenshot of the standard route and the alternative route in beta version, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So here we have a comment telling you that you can't rely on, because you should check manually if that route is moving through somewhere that could be inaccessible for you. The part of Adeo Mobile enables you to log in. You can consult, you can generate routes the same way that exactly the same as you would do with Google Maps with another navigation system. And we are implementing the issue of the augmented reality. It's quite curious. We don't know which would be the real usefulness, but well, you can focus as an area, a building, and you can obtain the information of accessibility, which comments some kind of images, etc. Well, maybe in the future they will work better. And here you can see a screenshot of the version for iPhone. You can see the static points, screen where you can upload an incident, to upload a comment, a complaint, and all the part of the routes. For this project, we've worked with 4 town halls. I will show them to you later. And well, we selected 4 with which we had a good relationship and that were differentiated. And every town hall worked with a different geographical information system. They have a different system via web or via mail or through an entry register. What I mean is that the system that sends the alerts or the incidents to the administration has to be adapted to every administration. All the standard way should be and standard mail, so that the citizen can consult the incident. We've seen that the management tool enables us to make plans, studies, or researches of this kind. These are professional tools that didn't exist in this issue. It's not it's not a web application based on a social network for people with special needs. It was something that called an attention. It enables an integral management and unlimited usage. Well, our work comes from the part of the users, and then we look, depending on their needs, we'll look for what kind of things could be done. And so and that's the reason why the communication with the administration, the fact of obtaining a fast answer, and not to obtain, for example, an answer 6 months later because there are some works on your street and you don't know what has happened with your claim. We want to obtain an immediate response, to obtain a response. For example, your complaint is under review, so that users can see this information. And about the citizen participation, we have realized, working with people, that was the key part, and specifically the interaction with the public administration, and the information that exists about the accessibility condition has to be verified by a third party. If I have an hotel, I will tell you that my hotel is fantastic, the rooms are accessible, etc. But now the user comes and it's accessible, for example, for a manual chair, or for some special needs or some things, and well, in that case, the satisfaction of the user is something that we have always dealt with, and we thought it was basic that the information was clear and to have it verified so that you can know if you will be able to get in and to enjoy the service. Well, now we're with the pilot tests. We have worked with Guarda Poblet, that was the Reina Sofia Prize in 2005, with Paterna, that have a public transport and some different characteristics. Aldaya, that was another town hall with the prize, Reina Sofia Prize, and with Alacuas. And we're with divulgation campaigns, some workshops, etc. Thank you very much. I hope I have summed it up correctly. Well, thank you very much to both of you. Really apologize for the cut of time. Now, we still have a coffee. You have half an hour of coffee. It will be reduced, but I think that both Guillermo and Gustavo won't have any kind of problem. If you have any kind of question during the coffee, they will answer the question. I'm sure that there's more than one person that is interested on some of the questions that have been told here. Thank you, both of you. And the next session is in room number 1. It's the presentation of Innova.